There's a growing concern about microplastics and how to keep it out of our bodies. A recent University of New Mexico study found some people could have the equivalent of a plastic spoon's worth of microplastics in their brains. ABC's Becky Worley has more on how microplastics get into our bodies.
Somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean is a big patch of garbage filled with tiny pieces of plastic. I thought microplastics were a somewhere else problem until I came to these research labs at the University of New Mexico.
These bright, shiny particles that you're seeing are probably microplastics that are present inside these tissues.
New Mexico is a hotspot for liver disease, and Dr. Rama Gulapalli is developing imaging technology to try to identify if microplastics are contributors.
We think that the plastic accumulation preferentially happens in a lot of fatty liver tissues, also other areas that contain a lot of fat, like the brain.
Scientists here have looked at human tissue and determined every modern sample is infused with microplastics. That may not have been the case 50 years ago. And those with dementia, liver disease, and even preterm babies have higher concentrations of the nanoparticles, though it's not clear yet what role they play in raising the risk of disease. One of the issues Dr. Garcia sees as most concerning, the concentration of these particles in the food and water supply. The FDA says microplastics and nanoplastics may be present in food, primarily from environmental contamination, where foods are grown or raised. Many studies have reported the presence of microplastics in several foods, including salt, seafood, sugar, beer, bottled water, honey, milk, and tea. And they add that based on current data, those microplastics are not a violation of FDA regulations.
As these plastics break down into our environment, they end up in our soils, and we use those soils as well as they can leach into our groundwater. So we use that for irrigation, all the different processes. And then ultimately, we're starting to see that uptake into our vegetables.
So you mean it's not on the vegetable, it's in the vegetable?
Yes.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
Meat has also been found to contain microplastics. And interestingly, there's less in wild game.
We've shown data where we're actually looking at venison, for example. I mean, that's just out in the wild, kind of just naturally grazing, and those have less plastics as compared to what we're seeing with a lot more of our processed meats.
The classic idea is that the Roman Empire fell because of lead in the pipes.
Right.
Is plastic our lead?
I think that there's still a lot of research that needs to be put into play in order to be able to give that definitive answer, but there is a trend that we're starting to see, so I think it's the most important time right now to be able to address it so that way it doesn't get to that phase.
Becky Worley, ABC News, Oakland, California.